Hey y'all, it's Nancy the Handy Scandy. Welcome back for another crafty venture. And if you saw my little crafty haul the other day, you will have seen that I purchased these Graphitint watercolor paints from Derwent. Today I'm going to swatch them out. Hey guys, thanks for joining me as I swatch out this new, to me at least, watercolor paint set. Now what's different about this one is it's from Derwent. I have nothing from Derwent in my stash. And then when I saw that these particular paints have graphite mixed within the colors, the pigments, I thought, oh, I got to give this a try. I love that grungy look and those deeper colors, and there's like, excuse me, reminiscent of fall colors, and very, very good for like kind of gloomy natural colors, if you will. So I took a look at the website, and this is what Derwent says about these particular paints. It says, create subtle muted color with a graphite sheen when you paint with Derwent Graphitint paint. They are ideal for mixed media work. Graphite and color combine to create this unique formulation. Graphitint paint features fine graphite particles that settle into the paper grain to create a myriad of effects. Apply on a cold pressed watercolor paper to bring out pools of granulations and passages of tone and color. Add water to transform the tint into rich, vibrant colors, and the paint palette includes 12 different colors. So I have taken a sheet of cold pressed watercolor paper from Arches, and I created this little makeshift grid. You can see, just like me, I always do just kind of down and dirty, right? There's no measuring involved. Things are very uneven, but I didn't care. This is just for my own good. And I even wasn't going to identify them, but then I thought, no, you need to do that. If this is going to be of any true use, you need to do that. So I did. And I do have this sped up a little bit, but I can tell you that these paints are very creamy, dreamy. Like, I don't have any other watercolor paints that feel this way. They are beautiful. And it does not take a whole lot of water or movement or friction to activate the paints. So it's right, it takes very little. I like the way they're going down. I noticed that the colors don't quite match the sample, the palette that's either in the paint or on the packaging. So there is a swatch within the paint. It's printed on vellum, and the colors are different. And actually, as I was perusing the Derwent website, I did notice that Derwent admits that the color palette swatches that they provide on the packaging and in the packaging are not correct, and that they are working on updating it. I do want to say they have a little bit of, not really a sparkle, but a little bit of a sheen. And I think that is because of that graphite. Because if you use a pencil, or if you use graphite in your art in any other way, it does have a sheen to it. So I think that's where that comes in. You can see that granulation happening. You can see how those pools of water and pigment just kind of settle. And I'll be back and we'll look at that a little more closely again once it's more dry. But now I thought, well, let's see how they all blend together. So I just started, and then I realized, oh wait, make this make sense. So I'm trying to go in some sort of an order, but again, it's just, I don't know, I'm just trying to see how they blend into one another. So really, they don't have to be next to each other as they are in the paint palette. They can be in any order. So I was just playing. I didn't want to stop playing with the paint, but I didn't want to truly swatch either. So I actually do several of these where I just kind of blend them all together, and I blend them in different orders and things, and I'm really liking this look of the paints all blended together. It's so, I don't know, it's so pleasing to my eye. But also I'm liking just playing with them and becoming familiar to how they feel, and the coverage that they provide, and what goes well with what. And so here is that line all together, and I think that I actually start with the very darkest color there, I think it's the graphite gray, And then I just kind of blend all the way kind of backwards, if you will, across that bottom row of the included swatch and then up to the top. But then I thought, well, what's it going to look like if I use it to paint? So I pulled out this stamp. It's a penny black. They call it a slapstick. It's the red rubber. And it's one of my personal favorites. And I thought, let me use something that's also grungy to do the heat embossing. So I pulled out my Scorched Timber embossing glaze from Distress. And I did the stamping, and obviously I put down the powder, and then I knocked off any excess. There were a couple places where there was excess ink on my on the stamp itself, so it also laid down extra ink on the paper. But again, I'm just playing, and my focus is on the overall picture and what the paints do, and so I wasn't worried about that. So I finished up my heat embossing, moved my paints back into place, and started going to town. Now you can see that this particular image is not one that you can paint in, so I'm painting around and just kind of creating aura around these flowers and petals. And obviously cherry blossoms are pink. There is no pink in this particular set. So the closest one would be the very first one. It says autumn brown. It does have a reddish hue. It's kind of a, to me, it's a really rusty kind of red. More like, I don't know, maybe a barn red or rust. I don't know how else to say it. But anyway, I'm laying that one down and using some of those purples on the bottom. The, what is it called? Aubergine, juniper, and port are the other ones that I'm putting over the flowers themselves. And then on the stems and on the green leaves, I'm using meadow, gray green, and the slate green. And those are on the actual palette itself. They're the 3rd, 4th, and 5th colors. And then I just kind of come in with those darker grays. I have some of the graphite gray, the steel blue, and the dark indigo. And I just kind of go around all the images just to kind of fill in that background. Now these are so granulated that they don't lay down on large swath like this. They don't lay down a whole lot of intense color, but they are so moody, so melancholy. I think they would work great for, like, you guys know that I have kind of an interior goth girl or an inner goth girl. I think they would be great for that kind of work because they just have that dark moodiness. They're really heavy, visually heavy. And of course, like the description on the website says, I think they are very good for landscape, but not every landscape, right? You're not going to use these if you want to paint a bright sunny day at the beach, or like a skiing scene where the ground is covered in snow and there's the deep rich greens of the trees and that and whatnot. And again, granulation isn't for every project either. And what I mean by granulation, if you are unfamiliar with that term, it's where you can see literal granules of the paint once it's dry. And we'll look at that a little more closely here in a little bit. I'm almost done with this, but I just thought this was kind of a fun exercise. Do I think the painting itself is pretty? No, I think it's actually not. But it was a fun exercise, right? Not everything we do has to be a work of art. This is just me playing with a new medium, figuring out what it does and what it doesn't do, and how I can use it and how maybe not. And maybe because I'm totally naive to this product, maybe I can find a way to use it that nobody else thought of because of that naivety. I think that naivety often brings out a different level of creativity and experimentation and discovery that we don't necessarily explore when we're very familiar with the product. Now, I do believe that it's important to become familiar with your product. I truly believe that. You need to know what it can do and what it can't do. But getting to know your product requires this exploration and this beginning naivety. So embrace that. Just go with it. Don't expect yourself to do a work of art every time you sit down. Just enjoy the process. All right, now let's take a closer look now that these are a little more dry. So my camera work wasn't the best here, and I do apologize. But you can really see where that granulation is taking place. They look like little granules of paint. I still am loving these lines. I'm going to do some more because I'm so loving that. I do not typically swatch, but I found so much value in doing that this time. I really, really did. Does that mean I'll do more? Time will tell. But this was really fun. And again. Do you see how if you don't blend it out to its lightest form, that those colors there in the middle are all very, very similar? So here I decided I wanted to do it on a bigger scale and just let them bleed into one another. So I pulled out another sheet of my arches, and this was kind of hard for me because I'm like, oh, it's the expensive one. Yeah, it's the expensive one. Use it. Play with it. What good is it if it just sits on a shelf? So it didn't take much convincing for me to go ahead and pull out another one. So and here I wanted to see if I couldn't blend the colors from top to bottom, and that didn't really work. And that's operator error. But this does provide a really great look at the granulation. I can tell you that. So we'll see that when it gets closer. So here I'm trying to go again and blend them in a different way. I don't know that I like this particular method any better than that top method, but I'm not mad about having used, quote, the good watercolor paper to play. And like I've said before, if I'm just making a card, you know, and it's just down and dirty, a very simple image, to me the watercolor paper doesn't matter. No, you don't want something that's going to pill up and, you know, disintegrate underneath your paint. But in terms of, like, I don't know, like a Canson or an Arteza or even a store brand watercolor paint versus something more expensive and higher quality like the Arches, I don't think it matters in that regard. I really don't think it matters for simple card making. But if you're going to do something more, or if you just want to treat yourself because you're worth it, then it's definitely worth it to try these more expensive, better quality watercolor papers. I truly believe that. And I will get myself some more, and I will try other brands as well, because I do find that the paper, the substrate, as Tim Holtz always says, the substrate matters. Now look at how different they are now that they're dry. Look at that granulation. Do you see what I'm talking about? The little spots and the darker spaces. And I love this paint set. And again, I found so much value in the swatching process. And there they are. That's the finished swatching system, if you will. I don't even know what to call it, but there, the bottom left is where you can see where I did that last swatching. And if you want to pause it on that particular picture so you can see the granulation and the pooling and whatnot, you are definitely invited to do that. And I invite your comments, your conversation. Let me know what you think. Do you have these? Have you heard of them? Have you used them? Give me some input. Let me know. Let me know. I want to play with them. I don't know in what way I will, but I'll be playing with these soon. So thanks, guys, for spending this time with me. Until next time, which will be very soon. This is Nancy, the Handy Scandy. And I'm out.